From How We Healed, Chapter 26. Racy, Words and Music, October 1958. Is was wary of most people. He rarely found himself outside the company of his immediate family. Even when he was on the road as a musician, he didn't really socialize. He did the job and went his own way. Perhaps being a solitary man was his way of keeping the quiet of the country life with him. Is, like everyone else, felt immediately at home with Racy. She was who she was, and being in her presence just made you relax. Often he would go and just sit with her in her place. He liked that she didn't try and get him to talk like most folks. Lord knows she could talk enough for both of them. She would break out a song, and he played along if he felt like it. The comfort was mutual. Racy loved having a man around that didn't want anything from her. She was very clear that she was not looking for Mr. Right. That ship, in her mind, had long since sailed. She did indulge a Mr. Right now once in a while because she said old didn't mean dead. Is liked her company and friendship and didn't get caught up in Racy's business because it was just that, Racy's business. Music was common ground. Is was sitting comfortably, just plucking on his mandolin, and Racy felt a little nudge inside. Is, do you write music? His eyes stayed closed as he strummed, and his head bobbed to the tune he was playing. I can do it in my head, I'm just not so good with putting it on paper. He was gifted. The notes he played took you places artists travel when they do not have the ways and means to get there in reality. She nervously placed the letter she wrote to Havana in front of him. Although Racy had always made her life an open book, this was different. It was a simple enough song, but the words held deep meaning for her. She trusted Is. Her gut told her that inside this quiet man was brilliance, and she had learned to trust that old gut feeling. She knew that Iz's music and her words could take people back with her to Havana and help folks understand how some moments in your life can change everything. She gestured at the page. Iz, will you take a look at this and tell me if you can see any notes in it? He opened his eyes. He looked first at Racy and stopped playing. He picked up the paper, intrigued first by the urgent sound of her question and more by the prospect of seeing music in the words. She watched him as he read it. When he was done reading, he closed his eyes again. Her nerves were pushing on her tongue to start talking, but she resisted. She quietly sat down and just stared at Is sitting there with his eyes closed, willing herself to hear the music he must have been playing in his head. They sat in silence for probably 10 minutes, and it felt like hours to her. Is opened his eyes, fixed them on Racy, a deep, penetrating stare, like he was looking into her, and then he finally spoke. I'm going to play it through once so you can listen on it. Once I run through it, you can pick up and see how it flows. Is began to play. Now Racy's closed her eyes. The music captured the essence of her words. The notes pulsed through her, making her dizzy with the feel, smell, and taste of Havana. Her nostrils flared, catching the fragrance of white ginger flowers and ghost orchids on a warm island breeze. Her tongue danced in her mouth with the flavor of meat, slow roasted on an open flame, fall off the bone tender. The recollection of sofrito and mojo marinade, heavy with cumin and boniato mashed with onions, made her mouth water. The mandolin was awakening her younger self, clad in red satin and spike heels, and her body swayed like palm trees dancing with the salty ocean wind. All those sensations led up to the chorus, where her sorrow was set free. Is touched her within the notes, and she wanted to embrace him back with her voice. She hadn't actually even said the words out loud. She had only written them down. She felt like a racehorse waiting for the starting pistol. She wanted to set those words free. Is finished the once through and paused. You ready? Racy felt slightly vulnerable, but her voice stayed strong. Though a little hoarse, she answered, born ready. She stood up, and Is began strumming slow and tenderly. His mandolin was the perfect accompaniment for Racy. The instrument gave the notes a haunting quality that matched Racy's unique voice. Is lingered on each note. Racy held the lyrics in a lover's clasp, like her life depended on them. Her life did depend on them. Do you remember me? There was a brooding pain in each one of those words. She wondered in earnest if she was really singing to her beloved Havana. Each time she sang those particular words, she felt them unifying the pieces of her broken life. She was finally finding peace and making sense of the senseless. All this time, and the tools to heal were right there inside of her. When the song was done, she bowed her head quietly and said, Amen. Barely audible, a private offering of gratitude to God for not abandoning her when she had abandoned herself. You got any more? Is asked, almost on the verge of solicitation. He understood this was a profound moment, and the intimacy of it made him ask the question. This part of Gracie was unknown to him. He was not uncomfortable, he just wasn't a talker, and there was no need to talk about it if she had more lyrics. He would understand lyrics much better than any conversation. Gracie lifted her head, gathered herself together. Not yet. They smiled at one another. She had many songs inside of her and so much to say in them. It felt that there was more to come and no mistaking something magical had happened in the collaboration. It felt that too often people wasted words. He didn't waste a single word, a quality he inherited from his grandmother. Any word he uttered had considerable thought and meaning behind it. No conversation was necessary. The song had said it all. And I just have a short poem from Life Lyrics, and this one is called When Dreams Meet Daylight.